I think it's bullshit.
Oh wait, did I see a tweet from you about this? How like your life?
I think I might have posted it to my Instagram, but I was essentially sober for the first 100 days of the year. Like I did a bunch of stuff. Like I gave up a bunch of stuff and included a bunch of stuff. And the whole idea was like my birthday was exactly 100 days from the start of the year, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to use this as a test of like what I'm going to include or exclude for the rest of like the next year of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I got rid of drinking, and I was expecting everyone to talk about all these like productivity gains, all this stuff. Nothing. But to be fair, I didn't drink that much prior. So like,
I think that's the key. Yeah.
Yeah. But if anything, I just like my life just got like a little bit dull. I was just like, I don't know, like sometimes it's like at 7 p.m. having a drink makes me work more because I'm like a little bit like loosened up and I'm like chilling, you know? So
yeah. I think that my take, and this could be unfair to the people who do see gains, but I think for a lot of the people, like it's excessive drinking, like going from excessive drinking to not drinking. That's where you see a big impact. But I'm the same way. I'm like I haven't been drinking the last couple of months. Like I didn't at all for a couple of months, just to kind of get a reset. But prior to that, I would drink. I'd probably have like twice a week. I'd have like 2 drinks. That was about my cadence. Maybe 3 times a week, like if I went out on the weekend or something, which I basically don't do anymore with kids. And so going from that to not drinking, I don't notice anything, right? Like it doesn't have any sort of meaningful impact for me. I will say though, I had some drinks. My sister came to visit and we got a couple bottles of wine and I had like 2 glasses of wine and I felt like crap the next day. So maybe going back the other direction isn't good, but I also like generally speaking, I feel like whiskey or something like that. I feel better anyways if I have wine.
Yeah, same.
So it's like I could probably like legitimately one time a friend came over and we drank like almost a whole bottle of whiskey and I felt totally fine, which with like not normally drinking to that. But if I tried like to drink a bottle of wine, I'd probably feel terrible. So I do think there's a difference in like the type of alcohol you drink too. But yeah, anyway, I think it's like if you drink a lot and go to nothing, you probably notice a pretty big impact. But if you don't drink a lot and go to nothing, I don't know if there's much of an impact there.
When I first met a few of my fiance's friends, we went to a brewery and I told them that I was sober beforehand because I thought sober was the term you used when you weren't drinking, not when you were an alcoholic and you were like not drinking. So they thought I was an alcoholic. They thought I was a recovering alcoholic. We're in this brewery that makes, this incredible beer. They'd won awards. So we sat down and I was like, I'll have a beer. Why not? I'll try one. And they went, no, you don't have to. And I was like, I didn't understand. I didn't know that they thought I was an alcoholic. So I was like, well, but I want to. Why can't I have a beer? And then, later we talked about it and they were like, oh, we thought you were an alcoholic. We didn't want to encourage you, by taking you to the wrong location, which I thought was very sweet.
That's funny. What do we got on the docket?
So there's a few topics here. We've got everyone's adding AI to their products and ChatGPT are adding Shopify to theirs. We've got Meta just launched their standalone AI product.
Oh, hell yeah. Meta's standalone AI app is amazing.
Okay. You tried it out?
Yeah, I haven't used it. I was curious. If anybody
Yeah. You guys didn't download it?
I actually, this is the first time hearing about it.
I don't use Meta.
Oh my God.
Basically ever.
You don't use any of Meta's products?
I just don't have the energy to engage in social media.
Okay, I don't know how you can be in e-com and not use any of Meta's products. I think we should bleep that out because otherwise I think you might get shunned. All right, look at this thing, okay? So first of all, let's get to know each other, learn how to use AI, describe me in 3 emojis. I mean, this thing is like telling you how to create content, and then this is the killer. There is a feed. There's a feed. Dude.
I mean, prompt discovery is something that ChatGPT hasn't like fully figured out yet.
Yeah. And I think that's way easier in a social context.
Yeah, dude, this is going to work. This is so good.
Over the weekend, I had a bit of a debate with some people on Twitter and LinkedIn, I guess. Like, I don't see ChatGPT as being a massive driver of e-commerce discovery because I think the way that you use ChatGPT, and to be fair, this is like hard to communicate in a tweet, but the way that you use ChatGPT is more akin to how you use how you use Google or any other sort of search engine, right? And not that all use is going to be like that in ChatGPT, but most of ChatGPT is used that way. And so what that means is that if you're doing product discovery in the context of ChatGPT, you're going to discover products that you are already in market for in some capacity. Like you're going to discover products.
100%.
Yeah, it's part of a category you're interested in. Like if I lately, the last couple of weeks, we're working on a garden. So I've discovered a bunch of products through ChatGPT around gardening, but that's because I'm actively looking for gardening products. And like counter to that would be something like, Gruns, I don't know how you pronounce it. I gave their vitamin gummy things a try, which I never would have done, except that like I just have like seen them around everywhere. I'm like kind of vaguely like going back to the health stuff we've been talking about. I'm like looking at improving my health. I don't take any sort of multivitamin. I've seen the ads. I went ahead and bought it. I wasn't like shopping for a multivitamin. I wasn't actively thinking about it, but there was an emotional trigger that got me to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and try this thing. And those are two very different types of shopping. And I think like going back to the Meta AI thing, that's where Meta has the ability to really enhance that.
That's it.
ChatGPT can't, in my opinion.
If they know that you just bought a pair of pants and then they tell you a t-shirt that would go really well with those pants and then render a photo of you wearing the pants and the sick t-shirt and it's like buy now, or like,
yeah,
I would love if all of ChatGPT had all of my like wardrobe in it at all time. Like I think in a weird way, I'm more excited now that I can see this and like honestly, like all the dots just connected in my head, and it's like I actually want Meta AI to know all of my Instagram DMs.
Dude, this is the thing. Okay, there's two things that people, I don't know how, but they consistently forget. Meta knows everything about you. Okay, because unlike every other app that you interact with, it's on your phone and on your laptop. Because Facebook is logged in on your laptop and Instagram and whatever is logged in on your phone, and so it's like literally everywhere. And so it has the best identity graph of any app on the internet. And they have built the best ad engine on the planet in history, right? Which is not search-based. Like Google built the best search-based ad engine, and Facebook built the best discovery-based ad engine. It's not going to be shocking that they're going to build the best discovery-based system in the AI world too. Like that's like not a surprise. And so like this format is closer to what discovery is going to look like than the ChatGPT format, which is like intent-based by definition. Like even, I mean, every use case I've ever heard anyone describe in terms of shopping through ChatGPT is exactly what Jeremiah said, which is it's things I already know that I want. People are like, oh yeah, but like it could like help me select my wardrobe and things. And it's because, it like turns out you need clothes. Like, and you already know that you need clothes. And you already know that you need clothes consistently. And you already know that you don't want to have the overhead of thinking about what to wear. Like you know all of those things. That's why you can like think about that use case. But the Groons use case is a great example of like, now I think Zach's point is even better, which is like not only do you know that you need to buy clothes, but actually now Meta's better positioned to serve that because they can serve it in a feed, which is the best way to discover lifestyle products is in a feed. Yeah.
And honestly, like D2C products. So one of the other things I was kind of talking about this weekend was around the fact that like my belief is that most of D2C shopping is discretionary spending.
Totally.
It's things that you don't really need. It's things that you want. And that's why Meta and YouTube and basically like media, if we look at our survey data that we have and you ask somebody how they discovered a product or brand, whatever that question is, the majority of people will tell you it came through media. And then basically like a fifth of those people, in addition to the media piece, are going to say word of mouth, right? And so the vast majority of these, and that's not including the other category, which is a bunch of different things. But ultimately, like media is driving a massive amount of D2C discovery. And it makes sense because it's discretionary spending. You're putting products in front of people that they probably don't need, but they become interested in because essentially they see somebody with this thing and they want this thing as well. And so that's why people buy from D2C brands. And so in that context, I think what Zach was talking about becomes really powerful with Meta, because I don't necessarily need that shirt. I might not even be shopping for a shirt, but if Meta knows that I bought this pair of pants and there's a shirt that's going to go really well with it, then in that context, they can just recommend that thing to me. And if I'm already in this like discretionary spending mode, it doesn't matter if I need it or not, I'll go ahead and buy it.
No, I think honestly, knowing about this today is making me the most, like, in my head right now, I'm even like, they know where I go. They know what I like to do. Like, one of my things that I hate, and I think this is the worst search experience I've ever had, is if I go to a new city or even in my own city, I'll be like, what's going on in Toronto this weekend? And you end up getting like these weird Eventbrite things. None of the cool shit's on Eventbrite anyway. But like, if they had like every post, like I went to this like wine thing this weekend that was like this little party, and like if I could search like what's going on right now and like get that Instagram post of that little flyer and stuff like that, I'm actually like very excited to be a user of this product, like 100%.
If a quarter of my portfolio was not already directly in Meta stock, I would be buying Meta stock.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second and pull on a thread. Actually, thread. Huh, that's funny. Do you guys know if they have ads in threads yet?
They're about to. They're literally about to they're literally about to launch ads in threads.
Okay, awesome. I mean, yeah, I guess that's a good thing, right? It means people are using threads.
Totally. And it means more ad inventory. It means CPMs will go down. You know, like, only goodness, man. Only
Not
goodness.
good.
Wow, post-market today, they're up like 7%.
I'm a happy man.
My thought here is, sure, they have the ability to do this stuff, but can they get the distribution? Do they have the market share that ChatGPT has? Or can they take that market share away?
They've 10 times as much already. They just haven't.
But on Meta AI's standalone app, like that's why I'm thinking about Threads. It's like, okay, sure, Threads is deeply integrated. I'm not using Threads. I don't have ads in Threads yet. All right.
Wait, Jack, you're gonna fucking love this. Wait, hold on. I got you. Don't worry. I got you. All right. Look at how sick this is. All right. What did I do? I searched Meta AI. Who's buying the search term Meta AI?
I got Gemini.
All right.
Who's
not buying the search term Meta AI?
Good point.
Meta. You know why? No fucks given. Dude, I think this thing is gonna come roaring. It's gonna come roaring. Like, people don't understand that, like, yeah, ChatGPT is hot, and like, yes, a lot of people, it has good international reach, but compared to Meta's international reach is like a behemoth compared to OpenAI. And with social networks and social content in general, if they make it more social, like it's similar to like the WhatsApp story, right? Like WhatsApp, like, one, because it just had so much distribution internationally that eventually even everybody in the US started using it.
I think it's also important. There's a difference in, again, going back to like the shopping example, but even if you just think about like why somebody's on Meta AI versus ChatGPT, you're there for a different purpose. I go to ChatGPT to accomplish tasks. There's something I need to do. I need to do research. I need to, review a document. I need to write something, whatever those things are that I'm going there. And I use it a lot, but it's restricted to, I have a task that I'm trying to do, and I'm going to go there and I'm going to do that thing. And I think Meta AI should actually stay away from doing that. And it should be fully focused on the social experience and the shopping experience and those kinds of things, because they are different behaviors. And I actually would argue that most of the time you want a disconnect between those two things. And I think the problem that ChatGPT has is that it's already, like, all of us go to it as essentially a work tool. We're not going there for entertainment. And that's a really big differentiation. And I think if Meta does a really good job of just focusing on the entertainment side of things, and probably some light, answer this question for me sort of thing, but it's the type of stuff where it's not like you're not trying to solve a big problem. You're like, hey, where am I going to go out to dinner tonight? Like, what's there, or some event to go to, or what are my friends doing? All those kinds of things. It's more of a social aspect. I think that's that's where they'll win. You know, ChatGPT can't compete with that. And actually, they shouldn't compete with that either. They should really stay focused on how do we be the best tool for businesses and researchers and all of that kind of stuff, as opposed to trying to be the social tool.
I'm going to buy the Meta glasses right now just because of this app.
Well, it's funny, going back to what I was saying about how I don't spend time on Meta. The AI stuff, if it's done really well, actually kind of makes me want to, right? Like there's so many things in my life that would be easier if a machine was actually just doing the work for me. That's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, man, let's get you back into that family of apps earnings numbers. This was a good topic. I forgot like how hot of a week this week was. It was a hot week.
I was trying to think about what swings and misses Meta have actually taken. I can't think of any, right? There's some products that seem like they have slower adoption curves. It doesn't seem like they've actually tanked. Like they've come out with a launch and it's flopped. At least not one that I can remember recently. I mean, maybe the glasses could be one. They've been doing that for a while, and I'm not sure if it's, taken off.
In fairness, they kill things very fast. So one of their best attributes is the speed with which they kill things that don't work. So we don't even see the things that don't. So they used to have this like innovation lab called F8. Are you guys aware of this?
No.
So this woman named Regina Dugan who used to run DARPA. So DARPA is like perceived as one of the like best systems for innovation. So for a while she ran Google X, or like Google's innovation labs and their innovation projects. And then of course, like well known that the most successful one is Waymo, which is now like, its own independent thing and it's taking off. Anyway, she got hired from Google to then run F8 at Facebook. And we just don't see a lot of the things from there because they're just really good at killing things. They have since shut down F8 itself in favor for like being focused on the glasses, in particular, like the metaverse work, and the AI lab, which became a separate division, which is just called FAIR. But like they actually do, Jack, they have a lot of investments. It's just that their discipline is so good that we don't even notice, basically, right? And I actually think that is actually the operational excellence that Facebook has, which is like kind of shocking, is that you don't even realize the speed with which they are able to kill things that are not working.
Yeah, and the timeframes that they're working on, right? Because I remember when Metaverse came out and there was that funky, launch trailer. It doesn't seem like anyone's using Metaverse. I might be wrong. I have no idea what the, the market looks like there. But maybe they're not looking for a user adoption right now. Maybe this is a really long play, a 5-10 year play. It takes a lot of building. Who knows? But yeah, Metaverse, that's an interesting one. It seems like they're still going with that one.
I think they're already getting adoption like right underneath our noses and we don't even realize it. Because the number of people who are buying the camera glasses and are talking to the AI assistant through the camera glasses that I hear about like over and over and over again nowadays, it is getting high fast. And it's one of those things that it seems like it's going to creep up on us.
Yeah, like I think my biggest thing right now is like they don't have the frames I want in transition lenses because I want to wear them all the time and I never want to take them off. Like this seems so good. Like if there's actually something as good as ChatGPT that I don't need to pick up my phone and do, I already have like shortcuts on my phone and stuff like that. Like this just makes it so much better.
And it would have, it has so much more context. It literally would see where you're going, what you're doing, all that kind of stuff. I mean, to be clear, I think there's some massive downsides potentially. And more of like a dystopian sort of way. But it is interesting in terms of like the actual like positive impact that could have on your efficiency and workflow and all of that.
Yeah, I feel like I love to talk about the negatives because it's just fun, the dystopian outcome. But most of these products are net good, especially for disciplined people that are going to use them productively, right? It's all about whether you're going to use these tools adaptively to achieve the outcomes that you want, or if you're going to, I don't know, become an addict, right? And drop off the deep end. One thing I thought was interesting about Zuck's announcement video on the standalone app was how he said, "We've made a new thing for you." This is your tweet, Rashab. And at the start of this video,
all right, hey everyone, we built a new thing for you. There's almost 1 billion people who are using Meta AI across our apps now, so we made a new standalone Meta AI app for you.
And it feels like he has to remind people, because Meta has a bad reputation with some users, some skeptical part of their user base that will still use the product, but will love to hate on the people who are building it, that they are actually building something for us that we have the option to use. You don't have to install Meta AI if you don't want to, but you're going to, because you're going to enjoy it, right? And it almost feels like he has to dumb that down, say, hey, we built a new thing for you, so that people understand this is contribution.
Wow. Dude, I think that's, I'm sure you're right. I would have never thought of that. I'm sure you're right. That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, we talked about this before in terms of, SaaS being out to get people, and people having this negative connotation around SaaS. And in reality, all software aims to serve people, right? To solve problems. And if people are going to pay for those problems, then it means that they view solving that problem with software as more than the money that they're paying for it, right? But there's still this negative connotation around, subscriptions, like we saw in that Black Mirror episode, or, in all the criticisms about Meta, right? There are some trade-offs for sure, but I wonder if this was intentional, or if it's just like how he decided that he was going to start this video,
I am pretty convinced that there's a good amount of intention behind whatever he is doing right now. Whether it's the Theo Von interview, which if you guys haven't watched is absolutely hilarious and I highly recommend.
I watched
But
it.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Dude, I thought it was so funny. I was like laughing the whole time.
I thought it was great. I mean, if anything, I did think that like Theo Von was like a little bit timid compared to what he usually is. And like there was a part of me that went clicking on it, and I was hoping to see like full-fledged manic Theo Von, but I think he kind of like kept himself in check. Like I think Theo Von's going through this weird situation where he's like, holy shit, like I'm interviewing some of the most like influential people in the entire world, and I think he's dealing with it well, but in another way, he's like, he has to probably not be full Theo Von. But yeah, it was a great interview. I mean, I was surprised when I saw it come up my feed.
Yeah, no, dude, I was surprised too. But yeah, I think he's, yeah, Jack, I think to your point, he's like very intentional. And I think that he is trying to say like, hey, these things are for you guys, like for you. And you decide whether or not this is useful for you, right?
I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard this idea that, if you don't pay for it, you are, the product. It's like, come on, right? Enjoy the product, right? Why do you have to have such a cynical take of this thing that you love, right? You can't even stop using it.
It is a little bit true, though. I remember, years ago, I did the math on like how much ad revenue Facebook. So this is like, I think pre-Instagram, how much revenue Facebook did per like weekly active user or whatever the number was. And it was like $9 per month or something like it was some crazy, maybe it wasn't per month. It was some number where I was like, nobody's going to pay that to use the product if they were not being served ads. Right. And I'm sure that number is way higher now than it was back then. But yeah, it is interesting. I mean, there's a value exchange that always has to happen. Right. And maybe like saying you are the product is a little too extreme, but there is something there where it's like, okay, there's a world in which like there's no way Meta could make the money that they make now by charging people to use it. It has to be an ad play, otherwise they'll never make that kind of revenue.
It's also like not intrusive. Like I've never gotten mad at a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad. I get mad at YouTube ads, and then I bought YouTube Premium and whatever, because it's like so intrusive. It's like I clicked on a thing and I got something else. Whereas like Meta never really shows you something that you didn't click on, or they kind of just like very delightfully put them in between. And because it's become such like a market, right? The advertising is actually good. So it's never intrusive or annoying.
Think about how amazing it's going to be in AI, where it's literally like the AI will be like, hey, I saw you bought such and such. Are you interested in a shirt to go with it too? And I'm just going to keep using your example, Zach, but just ask you that question. You say yes, or it could even be a little bit more better than that. It's like, hey, it could literally just be like, hey, I found this. I thought it'd be good for you. like that doesn't feel intrusive at all. That feels way better, and it's probably going to get way higher response rates, way higher purchase rates on things like that, and it will just enable more expensive CPMs ultimately, and more buying that happens in that context.
I'm just not sure you're going to want that to happen after you do a deep research query on ChatGPT. I think you're going to be okay with it happening on the feed of the Meta AI app, to Zach's point.
Do you guys think that there are ideas that are so good that you can't survive building them? Because Meta will just come in, or a massive entity will just outbuild you instantly.
I'm not sure that there's like an actual like concept that is like not possible for an independent entrepreneur to build. Like Perplexity exists. Do you know what I mean? And it shouldn't, right? Like ChatGPT existed and somebody was like, oh, we should just put the like citations on a ChatGPT response and call it Perplexity. Or let me say it differently. It is actually, I'm not sure I've heard of a story where it was a legitimately solid business that ended up getting railroaded by an incumbent with distribution. This is the obvious example, which is Mosaic and Internet Explorer. But it turns out that that was so extreme that Microsoft ended up in like the greatest lawsuit of all time and couldn't grow for 10 years after that, right? But outside of that, I actually struggle to come up with an example.
I don't know much about Perplexity, but I'm sure Perplexity raised a ton of money and probably had very high valuations. And then you see basically incumbents coming in and just doing the same thing. And I think where Perplexity probably will struggle is that like they're not going to own that entire market. And so if all of their projections were built on owning this whole market, then there's probably going to be some massive issues there in terms of valuation and those kinds of things. But I'm sure there will always be a place for something like Perplexity, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think like what happens to the business because of how they manage their cap table and their pref stack, and like that's a different problem than can an entrepreneur build something or will it get railroaded by an incumbent?
Yep.
Like an entrepreneur can build something and not get totally railroaded. But if you do funny things with how big you make your pref stack, then I mean, that's like at some point you have to be a responsible manager of your cap table.
And I think that's actually where the big issue comes in oftentimes is it's not, I've seen so many companies that they have a good product. There's nothing wrong with the product, but if they didn't win because of the way that they went about trying to build their business, the business cannot continue to operate with the current cap table that it does today, right? Like basically what ends up happening then is it's some sort of reset of that cap table has to happen in order for it to move forward, right? Like either it goes out of business or it sells so that the cap table gets cleared off and it's, maybe it sells for a tenth of what it's really worth because you have to clear that in order for it to move on and be something else. And I think that's oftentimes I guess what I'm saying is I don't think there's any product you could build that like incumbents could come in and say like you can't have a business here, but the size of that business and how good the outcome is for founders can vary dramatically depending on like what went into getting to the point at which the incumbents come in and wipe away a bunch of your market share.
I think there's a overlap here with direct to consumer. I used to work with a brand that sold athletic wear for women, and they were growing very, very fast. They're quite close friends now. And the very big store, Aritzia, copied one of their lines. And they didn't even like hide that they were copying the line. There's no argument that they didn't copy the line. The line, the brand that they copied, the line was the same name as the brand with a small change. And it was exactly their product offering, their hero product offering. So it caused a fair deal of stress, right? It was like, what can we do to stop this? And I think that might have been a fearful mindset, a scarcity mindset, because actually what ended up happening is everything grew. It was a good thing for the brand, despite, carbon copies of their product, arguably very nice carbon copies of their product being distributed by such a big name brand.
Yeah, I do, for what little it's worth, I do think it's more complicated in D2C than it is in software. But it's usually more complicated in the inverse direction, not like a big incumbent copying you, but like a knockoff, selling a knockoff. That tends to be the bigger issue and I think that's actually a very complicated question, which thankfully in software is like not a thing. Because like it turns out that like software, it's like hard to make a knockoff of software because like when things go wrong, the person using that software is intolerant of that thing going wrong. And so like you actually rarely get like knockoffs actually causing a lot of stress to the software. At least that's my view.
Yeah, I think that I don't totally agree depending on the category of software. I would say like I do think I understand what you're saying. I do think though there's some depends on the customer of the software and then the category. So like a good example in the Shopify ecosystem, if you look at reviews as a category, which I look at more now that I'm also running a reviews business, there's there's a player in there, Judge Me, and the guy has built a brand where I mean they have some I think it's like 400,000 stores on Shopify stores using their software, and it's either free or $15 a month. It's not fair to call them a knockoff. Like reviews are reviews; they've been around forever, right?
I don't think it's a big business, by the way. I think it's like a $10 million business.
Mm-hmm. It is. But what is interesting though is like that business is just sucking revenue out of the rest of the businesses in that ecosystem, because what's happening is people are paying $300 a month for reviews, and then they say, well, I can get functionally almost the same thing for $15 a month. Why would I not go pay $15 a month?
I used to be a Judge Me customer.
I did too, actually.
Yeah, I actually really liked the product. For someone who like I'm a bit of like a princess when it comes to like UI. There was something about how ugly Judge Me was, where if maybe it was at the time, this was like 2019,
Yeah.
but even like the fancy review apps, like I don't think that they were being executed that well. Like maybe they were being like executed nicely, but like the functionality wasn't really there. Where like Judge Me kind of just like worked and like let me export things really quickly, and they didn't email me a CSV, it downloaded right away. And like so there was like some things about the product that were like I wouldn't even consider them really like a knockoff. They're just like a bit like I would consider them more closer to like an open source type project.
Yep.
With
Totally.
because they're not building a company. They built a tool.
Tool, yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Like, let me try my best at, I'm not saying that this is a knockoff, but let me try my best at a comp in the software world. I think like, oh my God, what was Jimmy Kim's company that he founded?
Sendlane?
Sendlane. Yeah, okay. I mean, he's not there anymore. He partners with OmniSend now, so I don't think that this would be offensive to say, but a lot of people switched from Klaviyo to them and switched back. And like I think that is like my point about software is that it's actually just hard to make good software. Like the total amount of boomeranging that happens, like Klaviyo to like something that is like the cheaper Klaviyo back to Klaviyo is incredible. Like it is truly incredible. And I hear it all the time, over and over again. The only place where people don't like switch back from is Attentive. Like if you go from Klaviyo to Attentive, then you stick at Attentive. But each of those companies has been able to invest incredible amounts of money into making the software very good. That I think is my point, is just it's like very hard to make like knockoff software because functionality is not the same in the software world.
What I see is a lot of it depends on like the cost of failure, I think, is ultimately the challenge, right? Like if you email is a really good example, because the cost of failure for a business that's doing $100 million a year in revenue, like you might send an email out that drives $1 million in revenue, and the cost of that failure is very high. And so in that context, you need to make sure it works. And so there may be cheaper alternatives, but you're not going to use a cheaper alternative because you value that, and there's such a massive cost of the failure there. I think there's other categories where that's not the case. Like I think, frankly speaking, like reviews, going back to that example as a product category, is like this is actually my like one thing I'm really excited about this year moving forward, as we're kind of like reinventing what that product should be. changing it so that people actually do care about it. Because I don't think people care about it. People look at it as like something to check a box, put it on your website, show some reviews, and like you want to collect reviews, you want to show reviews, but you're not actually like thinking about what that could do for your business. What are the implications of those reviews? Like, how do I actually like turn this into something that drives revenue for me? And so in that context, there's so many brands I see that are like, oh yeah, I'm cool paying $15 a month, because like the cost of failure is not high. It's not doing anything that you perceive as valuable ultimately. And so you could have like, you'll go use whatever's cheap, but also proven ultimately in that context. And I don't know. I think there's a bit of a distinction there, and maybe I'm not. I don't know that it's counter to what you're saying, to be clear, but I think like there's differences there, and depending on the type of software and like ultimately what the cost of failure is.
Well, I think it's you're talking about the pivot of reviews becoming a commoditized thing and then needing to become a different thing that's not a reviews app, right? Like it's like you become a retention platform essentially, or you become like a customer advocacy platform, right? It's like, what do you do that with that review? Can you turn that review into something else, meaning a piece of content or an ad automatically? And inherently then you're like not even a review platform anymore. And so I think it's like, yeah, there are, from like first principles, like a really good review app should actually exist in Shopify. Like reviews are like core to the shopping experience of any e-commerce site. Like more like probably pretty close to checkout and add to cart, right? So inherently it's like a category that, because it's like so native and it is like relatively simple, like there probably should be like a really good $15 a month review app if all you're doing is collecting and displaying reviews. I mean, we get a lot of knockoffs. I have like the spreadsheet, and there's like a 20% hit rate on ones that have survived. And then the ones that have survived, they all came out with value-based pricing. And then now they're all more expensive than Foreplay because they decided no longer to go product-led because they didn't have as good of a product. So then they go sales-led. So yeah, it happens. It used to make me really, really mad.
Dude, there's the category in which this is like extremely common is influencer. Like the total number of influencer platforms is like infinite at this point, right? We have a bunch of knockoffs. Like dude, there are people who like copy pixel for pixel what they perceive is our UI that leads to like higher converting experiences, and it obviously doesn't work because like what people don't realize is that, well, our customers know, but if you're not a customer of ours, what people don't realize is that the UI is like irrelevant if you don't know why that is the UI for that brand and that context. And so the data underneath that is the product, but people copy the UI. And so when they copy the UI, of course it doesn't work. It's like, it is actually exactly the equivalent of if a D2C brand copied an ad from another brand and they're like, how come it doesn't work? Like you have to take inspiration from other ads, but you still have to figure out what works for your brand, right? And that's actually why a product like Zax, where you take inspiration from a large number of places, is important, because then you apply it to your context and then you actually get something that will be effective. But simply copying like an interface, it never works. I've just never seen it work.
Yeah, we have this one person on our team who he's like our kind of data scientist, data scraper guy, and we had a conversation a few weeks ago, and he was just like, you need to start thinking about Foreplay as like a data company, because that's actually where all of the value like lies. And I had always looked at us as like a platform company, and he's the one that manages and kind of like collects most of our data. And it is true, like even some of the budget Walmart versions of us that have come out, like it was actually kind of interesting. In the very short term, people are like, oh, this is better than Foreplay. The reason was because they had like a bunch of manually curated ads that were like limited. Whereas like, but then we were like dealing with like, we're collecting like roughly 1 million ads a day right now. And so like, there's some shit that comes in. And so like, you know, at first glance, it becomes like, oh, like this one's better, this one's worse. But like the moment you do a search query, or like the moment you've gone through their ad library that has like not a real number on their marketing website of how many ads they have. And then we have like it's like the Klaviyo transitioned back to Klaviyo. So it's like, yeah, there are like little moments of like pain and frustration, but over a long enough time horizon, I do think that it's like good product supported by good data, and then like just like solving problems from that, right? So
it's, man, like one of the, going back to what you're saying about the data, like this is where, like with AI moving as fast as it moves, the only thing I'm worrying about right now, should not quite, but like the most important thing in my mind is the data. Like how does the data, what does the data look like a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Because like for in your context, ChatGPT now has the ability to, and they just open up the API for this to be able to generate images, right? So like you've got the data to actually be able to generate the best possible images, and nobody else has that. I don't know if you're looking at that specifically, but it's like that
we are
build that thing, right? Or like somebody else is going to build it because that's their business, and if you have the data, you're going to be able to leverage that ultimately. So
yeah, so I mean, I can talk about this. So like actually one of the biggest pains we have right now is that we started building the company and building the database before like AI was a thing. And so right now we're going through like a really large database rewrite to just like make our data like usable, which is like hard when you have like 70 million ads and like account migrations and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing is my biggest focus outside of like launching the new product is like an open API, which like I think will actually be like the largest part of our business. Probably in like 8 months.
I mean, the best thing about AI ads is like one of the things people were worried about is like, will people actually click on and buy from AI ads? You want to know where AI ads are going to be native?
yeah,
In the Meta AI app. Boom! Everybody's problem with AI ads disappeared like in an instant. Like I think the whole thing is like so beautiful. You know what I mean? The whole thing is so beautiful. People have been skeptical about like, oh, Meta's AI generated ads are so shitty. And it's like, actually they just created a whole app where everything is AI slop. And their AI slop ads in an AI slop feed is gonna work real well. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, Jack, what were you gonna say? We probably got to wrap soon too. So.
I love that. I love that take. I think that's so strong. You know, it's the right context for it. It's going to be accepted. I couldn't agree more. And hey, as the quality just gets better, you know, from things like really high quality data and just, you know, advances in tech, I can't see it. I can't see us being too far away from most AI slop, but actually being, you know, huge value adds and the sort of stuff that people are constantly sharing with each other and enjoying and, you know, not being able to put their phone down for. I kind of have, I think, an uncontroversial take on copycat products, whether it's D2C, physical product, or it's software product. I think that's actually how things get better. And I think most people would agree. Everyone who sells a product is creating supply for a real market demand. They're solving a problem. So whether it's the Amazons, the Temus, the Targets, the Walmarts, that are creating a huge amount of supply for very large market demands, they're solving a lot of problems. The opportunity comes from how many people want to buy and how much they want to spend, right? Demand. And when lots of people wanted to buy, there's a lot of opportunity. Market participants, businesses rush to provide supply. So the example that I like to talk about sometimes is butter, right? We have lots of butter, lots of people want butter. So lots of businesses, farms create butter, right? And sell it. And because there are so many businesses creating and selling butter, new strategies for making as much butter as possible emerged, right? Margarine, fake butter, right? And popularizing fake butter, right? With advertising, which didn't require cows. And now this is the cheapest and most abundant butter type product in relationship to demand, right? People don't actually want it as much as they might want other products. People still want real butter, right? So the next strategy was improving cow feed, right? Adding palm oil to cow feed so that the cows would output more butter. And people complained about this. They were like, why doesn't my butter melt? I want to get it on my toast, but it's too hard, right? I'm not sure if that was something that touched you guys, but yeah, people complained about palm oil butter. So that automation that minimizes inputs, cost, maximizes outputs, the product, allowed those businesses to create more butter faster, offer it cheaper, so that customers can buy from them and not from a competitor. Do you want to buy $10 generic butter or $4 generic butter? You want the cheaper thing, right? The cool thing about this is that if you go to any supermarket in the US, right, the problem of affordable butter or any other product getting it affordably is solved, right? Butter's cheap. There's loads of market participants, businesses creating and saturating the supply of butter or chicken or whatever it happens to be, which forces new market entrants or competitors or somebody who's in that market to find either lower cost ways of producing butter so they can decrease their prices and win market share, or make something better for emerging market demands, like grass-fed butter, whatever it happens to be, right, that people are asking for next, right? But yeah, I think that pressure, that squeezing of margins is how things get better, because it forces business owners to go, I have to do something better. I have to meet emerging market demands for something better to win back my margins, right?
By the way, I just checked. Apparently, that's a $10 billion a year industry, butter and margarine. So, in the US specifically.
Yeah,
so it's
nice.
It's a pretty good size industry for something that I can't think of a brand off the top of my head.
Land O'Lakes.
No, Kerrygold is like top tier butter. Does not get better.
Kerrygold's products are really good.
You know, the crazy thing is, though, in Canada, the price of a brick of butter can be as low as like a few bucks, a couple bucks. And the price of grass-fed butter, which, you know, I prefer, came from like, I don't know, $15 over the COVID pandemic to when I left Canada, like $4 to $7. And I'm like, wait, this is coming close to the price of just generic palm oil butter. And that's awesome. You know, you're getting access to a high quality product for cheaper. And the only way that can happen is by the supply saturating, right? More people making grass-fed butter. I just confessed my love for butter for like 5 minutes.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. It's good. It's a good way to round this episode out, because it started off with me commenting on how ripped you are. And so now I know that you're ripped, even though you are a butter lover. And so I'm going to go cry myself to sleep. But this is a great episode. I'll drink 2 half cups of whiskey and not worry about it.
My fiance is laughing in the background. She's covering her mouth so she doesn't make sound. But she's not
Amazing. All right, guys. This was fun. This was really fun.
So,
All right.
appreciate you guys.
See ya.
Talk soon.
Bye.